listening to the IELTS podcast. Learn from tutors and ex-examiners who are masters of IELTS preparation.
Hello and welcome to this tutorial from IELTSPodcast.com. Today we'll be talking about IELTS Academic Task 1 writing. Yes, you know what I mean. The graph, the line graph, the pie chart, whatever it might be. First, a few words about myself. My name is Rob. I'm an ex-IELTS examiner, and I've been, involved in IELTS and teaching English in general now for many years. And I think maybe I could help you out with some problems that you may be having with the IELTS writing, the academic task 1 writing. I often feel, that it's more difficult than it looks. People think, oh, it's only 150, 180 words, something like that, and that shouldn't be too difficult. I'm supposed to describe the information that I can see maybe in a pie chart, a line graph, or perhaps a bar chart, or even a flow chart. It shouldn't be that difficult, particularly as most or a lot of people taking the academic task, the academic version of IELTS, come from scientific or social science backgrounds. Not all of them, but quite a few, no? But as I said, I think it's more tricky than people imagine. And let's see how we can, have a few thoughts about how we can best get the most out of those pie charts or line charts or whatever to be able to effectively organize our information. Because there's a lot of data we're going to be looking at. And what we're looking for with Academic Task 1 is our ability to work out what the main trends are. Where is the real information? What is it really all about? We also have to make comparisons, don't we? It says that in the exam, make comparisons where necessary. And we have to organize our information so that we show how we can clearly understand the information presented to us, and then rewrite that, if you like, because we're reading and interpreting, and then putting that down in a different form, a written form. Okay, let's take them one by one. Let's go to the pie chart first. I like pie chart. In Spanish they call it a cake chart. It is like a cake, isn't it? It's a pie or a chart. It's a round thing. It's a very easy one for anybody to easily see, I think, at first glance, where the most important information is. What are we supposed to do? We really should be spending a few minutes at the beginning of the test. I know that task 1 takes a maximum of around 20 minutes, but spend a couple of minutes planning it, looking at it, 2 or 3 minutes. Examine the sections of the pie chart, identify the different proportions of each segment. Where is the biggest one? 20%, 40%? Depends what we're looking at. Let's say we've got a pie chart describing exports of fruit and vegetables, say, from one country to the rest of the world. And we can see the distribution there quite easily. We can say, well, okay, look, citrus fruits, oranges, lemons represent almost half. Look, it's 45%. And then we've got 15% on pineapples, and so on, etc., etc., etc. No, so that's my first task. I got to look at the information. I've got to see what I'm looking for. Where is the essential differences between the things? How can I start comparing things? And of course, I'm focusing on probably the biggest differences, which is the largest segment, where's the smallest segment, what does it correspond to, as well as any other interesting variations. If I can count, let's say if it were fruit and vegetables, I count up the different fruits and it comes to around 2/3, whereas vegetables only represents about 1/3. So there I can see a clear division between two things. Okay, so I'm beginning to compare. I'm beginning to analyze the relationships between the different categories, and trying to highlight, I suppose, when I'm planning and then when I'm writing, these differences, as well as, of course, the similarities between things. Okay, so remember that when we're talking about any type of chart or any type of information in Academic Task 1, they're asking us to give an overview of things. What exactly is an overview? It really is, believe me, the key word we must remember at all times when preparing for Task 1 academic writing. The overview is a clear view of where the most important information is. It's a clear view summarized maybe in one sentence, maximum perhaps, yes, one sentence, I think, which shows that we understand exactly what it's all about. Where are the main relevant details? We've got all this data, but overall, where is the most important point? What is the most important point? Let's take an example, shall we? This is just an example where our pie chart apparently refers to housing expenses, how people in any particular context divide their expenses concerning different kind of things, whether it's going to be food, entertainment, clothes, education, whatever. We may begin our description with a general view of things. Listen to this. The pie chart illustrates the distribution of household expenditure across various categories, with the largest proportion allocated to housing expenses, followed by transportation and food costs. So there we've got the general description of it, the distribution of household expenditure across various categories, and then our overview. In other words, the interpretation. What's it all about? The largest proportion allocated to housing expenses, followed by transportation and food costs. So there you see it. Pie charts, line graphs. Any difference? Well, we're simply looking at information or showing information from a different angle, that's all, but in a different fashion, in a different way. I mean, we're again looking at trends. We're examining the line graph to identify trends, fluctuations. If we've got on one axis, perhaps it might be time in periods of months or years at the bottom, and then vertically we might be, of course, referring to whatever it might be. Again, it could be expenditure, it could be sales, it could be all kinds of things. So we're going to try to see what information we have there by examining those two different aspects. And of course we're going to be highlighting when it reaches its top and when it goes down, what we might call the peaks and the troughs. The troughs is when it really goes down and down and down, and when there's not many sales or something like that. So we should pay attention to these peak points and the troughs and any other little spikes or sudden increases, or when it goes down a little bit, when it dips and then the data changes. Are there any significant changes? So again, in the same way as we're referring to our pie charts, we're looking for relationships between things, how we describe relationships between different variables, and see what interesting connections there are. And in that way, of course, we are interpreting the data. Perhaps an example might be this. We're talking about temperatures. It might be a line chart referring to a line graph referring to, I don't know, global warming or something. No, listen to this. The line graph depicts the fluctuation in global temperatures over the past century, revealing a steady upward trend with notable spikes in the recent decades, indicating a concerning acceleration of climate change. Now, you couldn't put it better than that. I didn't write that. That's not me writing. I'm not trying to talk about myself. I'm saying that's a wonderful sentence because it gives us both things. The general description of what this is all about in general, and then the interpretation, revealing a steady upward trend. It goes up slowly, steadily. with notable spikes. Yes, sometimes it goes really up and down again. In recent decades, not surprising, huh? Indicating a concerning acceleration of climate change. Okay, obviously when we're talking about graphs or charts, we also, of course, have the bar chart. Bar charts are nice, actually, aren't they? Because you see it, the ups and downs very clearly. Because again, we've got it on the horizontal axis. We might be referring to different things, different products. For example, and on the vertical line, we are talking about numbers, the number of sales, or whatever it might be. So again, we're initially making some kind of comparative analysis, comparing the values represented by the different bars in the chart and trying to identify any significant variations. And again, highlighting these extremes. First of all, I would have a look at the bar chart and focus on the highest and the lowest ones, as well as any other interesting little things that seem strange. Why is that one so low, or why did that one not change at all over the last 20 years or whatever? So then, of course, we want to describe that distribution, and we want to interpret it. We want to, explain through our overview what the implication of these trends are. And also, perhaps, you never know with some of these, it depends on what we're getting. It might be historically biased. I mean, it might just refer to periods of time that have already finished, or it might go on into predicting future trends. It really depends. That will, of course, determine other things as well when we begin to write. I mean, what particular verb tenses we might be using, whether it's going to be strictly in the past, or perhaps present perfect if we're referring from the past until now, or even, of course, predicting in the future. In the future, it is predicted that sales will increase to over, I don't know, whatever way, or by an average of 20% by the year 2040, or something like that. No? Shall we take an example sentence? Here's an example. The bar chart illustrates the distribution of educational attainment among different age groups, with the highest proportion of post-secondary graduates observed in the 25 to 34 age bracket. Okay, so let's think about that one again. We have a bar chart which talks about different age groups. If we're talking about post-secondary, therefore we are referring to, let's say, people over the age of 18, and it might be distributed, how can we put it? Let's say 18 to 24, 25 to 34, 35 to 45, maybe in periods of 10 years after that, getting older and older and older. 45 to 55, 55 to 65, over 65. And we're checking out, perhaps with reference to a particular country, how many people in those age groups have some kind of post-secondary education. Have they been to university? At what levels? Have they done postgraduate work, or whatever it might be? As we can see in this particular sentence, the highest proportion of post-secondary graduates observed in the 25 to 34 age bracket. What does that imply? Well, of course, remember that when we are writing this, we are only using our information that we can see in the chart, or where it might be the flow diagram. We are not taking anything from outside that information we can actually see. I may be looking at it, and I may make some conclusions based on knowledge I may have from other sources. I may say, well, this is obvious, isn't it? Because in this particular country where we see this, where this data comes from, they have put an awful lot of cash into education, encouraging more and more young people to go to university in the last 10 years. And here we see the obvious results. I mean, 30 years ago, only 6% of all high school graduates went to university, and now it's gone up to 40%. So my outside knowledge, okay, fine, congratulations, but we cannot put it into our description unless it's there in the data that we have. Remember, that's the idea of Academic Task 1. Only describe what you've got in front of you. Don't take knowledge from outside. Compare and contrast. I haven't been talking today about other things that are obvious in this task 1, have I? I mean, for example, when we're comparing things or converting, let's say, percentages into different ways of talking about them. I think I've mentioned those in others, in other talks we've had, and I'm sure you've heard some of that before from other people as well. So let's go on to the flowchart. Flowchart is a little bit different, isn't it? Because it's another way of representing data. I mean, again, we're looking at steps in this case more than anything else, aren't we? We're trying to follow the sequence of steps that are presented in the flowchart, and we're trying to identify what it's all about. How is it progressing, this kind of thing? I mean, what are we trying to look out for? I mean, what are the main nodes, and what are the main points here? Are there any branches where we've got an either or situation? We should pay particular attention to those points, where the flowchart actually moves on to a next step. Does it give us one option, or rather, if yes, go there, if no, go the other way, etc. So we want to analyze the outcomes or implications of each of those steps. So we want to, at the same time, of course, in those first 2 or 3 minutes before we begin writing, when we're planning it all out, trace those paths that we can see in the flowchart, identify the most important things, and summarize the process in that particular way. I mean, looking at the significance, let's say, of each step to achieve, the desired outcome. What is the outcome going to be? It might be some kind of industrial process. Those are quite tricky when you look at them. Or it might be something from natural science. I mean, let me think. I mean, how water enters reservoirs. So we might be talking about clouds and rain and how that's collected, and etc., etc., etc. Usually, I think it's often an industrial process, isn't it? I mean, how we're going to whatever it might be, make sugar or something like that, from the raw product. We have raw materials. How does that go through different processes to end up with the final end product, which is often, as we see in those tests, sent by trucks to your local supermarket for you to buy or something like that. So we've got here an example sentence. What do you think about it? Do you think it needs more information added to it? I mean, I've been talking about putting a lot of information into one sentence. Do you think we need any more? Listen to this. The flowchart outlines the process of product development, delineating the sequential stages from conceptualization and design to production and marketing. Well, a lot of big words there, no? Conceptualization, wow. Delineating, I mean, outlining, to delineate. To delineate, of course, means to number, to put them in a line, to say this is number 1, and that's step 2, and that is step 3, and there we go, 1, 2, 3. So we're talking here in very general terms, about what they call here product development, from the original, the idea of the concept, to designing that concept, to the final production of it. We could be talking about anything. We might be talking about designing clothes or whatever. So, okay, I I think the most important thing we can take away from any talk about academic task 1 is the need for planning, the need to, as well as the other things we haven't mentioned, that the grammar parts, how we describe numbers, etc. The need for us to see the most important thing. Where are we going to say, this is what it's all about? We have to analyze the data. We don't just describe it. We have to say, this is the most important thing. Here is what it's all about. And that's what I want to impress upon you as writers of IELTS today. Okay. By the way, I mean, before I forget, how are you getting on with your essay writing, whether it's task 1 or task 2? Have you tried it yet? I mean, the AI essay checker. I've been hearing some great news about it. I mean, smart people like yourselves these days are using tools and not necessarily information to pass IELTS. You know that, don't you? I mean, through things like the AI essay checker, which is available, of course, at IELTSPodcast.com. It's sign it, get in there today. Actually, I would if I were you, because once you start writing your essays, all you do is send them off through the details you see online at IELTSPodcast.com to the AI essay checker, and within I can't remember if it's 48 hours or less than 48 hours, within a very short period of time anyway, you get feedback on that. Feedback can be positive, and that's wonderful. You're doing well. But I mean, we cannot just say to people, well done, that's nice, very good, you've got a high grade there. We want to say to them, yeah, look at that. You did that okay, but I mean, to get a higher grade, you need to look at that. You didn't plan it enough, or you made a mistake in grammar, or the vocabulary you're using is okay, but it could be better, and so on and so forth. That's real feedback. When we find out what we did wrong, if you like. I mean, I'm not trying to be horrible there, but I mean, I think we learn a lot more from just being told, good job, well done. Yeah, that's nice, isn't it? But I mean, we also need to be told, yeah, okay, look, but do you know what you could do to do it better? Okay, thank you very much. There we start learning properly. So sign up to that. And the other thing, if you got time, I'll be quick on this because we're running out of time. We'd be really pleased to hear from you, any feedback you've got on these little talks we give as well, on this one or anyone you hear. I mean, share your ideas, recommend them to your friends, whether you're listening to this on Spotify or wherever. Give it a review, whatever you think, just write it down and share your thoughts with us, okay? Anyway, good to talk to you again. I'll be in touch again soon, I hope. In the meantime, good luck with everything that you are planning in your life. Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to IELTSPodcast.com.